Hey y'all, welcome back to Made It Out. Today I'm here with Brittani Nichols. She's a director, a producer, a writer. You might recognize her most recent work, which is Abbot Elementary. And if you haven't checked it out, you absolutely should. It's an incredible show. We're talking about gender performance, her own journey of self-expression, and also representation that we need more of in the industry. I've really been on a skincare journey this year. I've been getting a lot of lasers and microdermabrasion and really trying to work on the texture of my skin. And my dermatologist let me in on a secret. She said, ditch cotton pillowcases. So I got Blissy's silk pillowcase. It's dermatologist tested and clinically proven to not clog your pores, unlike cotton. And because you're a listener, Blissy is offering 60 nights risk-free plus an additional 30% off when you shop at blissy.com/madepod. That's BLISSY.com/madepod and use code MADEPOD to get an additional 30% off. Your skin and hair are going to thank you, I promise. Thank you for being here. We've had so much fun already.
I'm glad you think so.
Are you not having fun?
No, I am, but I want you to have a good time. You're doing this all the time. I'm sure it ranges
It does
in
range.
fun.
Okay, I want to know about you.
Who doesn't?
Do you talk about yourself a lot in long form?
Not recently.
Yeah, I wasn't able to find a lot of stuff
I
recent.
think probably a lot of the podcasts I did probably have been scrubbed from the internet. Just for age reasons. I just feel like I feel like I was part of the first podcast
wave.
Yes. And then I just haven't really done them much. And
do you miss it?
Do I miss it? I miss the attention. To be honest.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So tell me about your life. Let's start. What was your life growing up? What was your family structure?
I am from Chicago.
Same.
I'm the oldest of seven. We were on the west side of Chicago, like Kedzie and Madison, if you know. And then we moved around a bit and sort of settled in South Holland when I was in junior high.
What were the conversations around queerness growing up? What did you hear? What did you know?
There weren't really many, not in my family anyway, outside of the family structure in school and stuff. I think I was having touch points and moments, and I played basketball. So there was a lot of, nobody wants to be gay. We don't want to be gay. You don't want to be gay. It's the stereotype, and you just don't want to be the stereotype. And so that, I think, was the vibes. Even when people were out in high school, they were only out to a certain degree. They didn't want to talk about it. They would fully have a girlfriend. And then prom would roll around, and all these studs would all of a sudden be in the most beautiful prom dress you've ever seen. You're just what's going on? You should be in a suit, my guy. What is this?
Where did you fit into that?
I kind of opted out. I think that I recognized being appealing to certain types of boys helped with popularity. And so I sort of always had a light-skinned guy I was talking to at a different school.
Wow. Okay, but they were real, or they
were real.
Okay.
Yeah. But it was not someone that I had to be interacting with in front of people all of the time. And then I had a couple of boyfriends in high school. And to me, it was real. I think it's that thing where it's until you see the other side of it, you're oh.
Yeah.
But while you're doing it, you're oh, this is just how this is supposed to feel.
Yeah.
You don't know any better.
Mm-hmm. So you didn't have any early signs to yourself?
No, I was fully in love with my best friend in high school, and I think had crushes on women here and there. Bring It On was certainly a moment for me. When she comes out, when Missy comes out and dances on the porch.
Yeah.
I was well, I like that.
What was it like being in environments like the basketball team there were so many women around, and whether they were hiding it or not, queer women.
Yeah.
I was in environments like that, and it made me really nervous about, because I had a better idea that I was queer. And so it made me scared to interact with women, because I didn't want that to show, I think, subconsciously. But what was it like being in that universe?
Yeah, I think I was very protective of my own like expression, I guess. So I was having a great time, obviously, like being around like a bunch of funny, athletic, like smart women all the time. I was like, I'm loving this. Yeah. Could pick a better environment. But yeah, since I didn't want anyone to like have a sense that I was queer, I think it was just a lot of like buttoned up, like very just like to myself. And I think that kept me from, you know, I think I hear these stories sometimes of people who are like, we were so touchy, like, you know, girls in high school like braiding each other's hair and hugging and fake kissing and like all sorts of shit. And I didn't do like any of that. I was like, do not touch me because I don't want you to think that I want you to touch me.
Totally.
You know what I mean? So it was like a lot of that sort of, I guess, physical
restraint,
intimacy that I think even straight women have. I just like didn't participate. And when someone would do it to me, I would be like, what's happening? Why are you doing this? I was like, why are you? Because it felt like torture. It felt like it was purposely pointed at me. It's that thing of like, people say like, yeah, straight women know you're queer. And they're acting in a way that they like want your attention because it still feels like, it feels like safe attention to them.
Wow.
And so like through high school and college, I would have women who were very touchy with me. And I would have to, even though I was enjoying it, have to be like,
yeah, that's an interesting point. I've never thought about that like the straight girls or the ones that want that validation will kind of seek it out because of a safety thing. I've never.
It feels so subconscious. Like, I don't think that they're aware that they're doing it, but it was like such a pattern that I was like, there's something happening on like a chemical level that people are reacting to.
Yeah, that's interesting. When was the moment that it clicked then?
That I was gay? Mm-hmm. I mean, I think it sort of, I knew it for a while. And it just was a matter of like being brave enough to like act on it. And I think that since I had known it for so long and like it was truly just like sort of about opportunity. So it was like, oh, okay, there's like someone who's out and queer and who's like not afraid to show their attraction to me. And so then it sort of at the beginning of my queerness was a lot of like, oh, I'm just reacting to people being attracted to me rather than me having sort of agency and seeking out the people that I'm attracted to.
Oh, wow. That's an interesting point. Because I think I felt that way too when I first came out. It was like I could never be the aggressor. Even when I met Matilda, I was really scared to like make a move or show that I cared. And maybe it does come from some of that. It's like this subconscious, is that shame? I don't know what that is. Or like habit from hiding it.
Yeah, I think it's habit. I think it's like also still figuring out at that point, you probably I didn't have like a queer community really. So it was still like, and it was college. It was like, some people are still closeted. So it's also trying to be like, hey, what's up? Are you, I think you are.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you want me to know. So it's a lot of like parsing that when you're still figuring it out yourself. I think it's just like two people sort of just like bobbing in the water next to each other.
So you were still playing basketball in college. And what did that look like as you're starting to figure that out? Was it someone on the basketball team?
I think I had like small crushes on my teammates, but I was never like, oh my God, I gotta be with like one of my teammates. I think because it was a teammate thing and it just didn't feel something about it. It felt like there was always like a boundary there with people like on my team. So it was like, even if it was like fun and flirty, I wasn't looking to like really cross the line with people that were that close to me. And then I discovered the women's rugby team and that sort of
women's rugby.
Yeah.
And that's where you met her.
Yeah. That's where I met someone who I ended up dating. Yeah.
Okay. Tell me about that first relationship.
First relationship was with someone who had been on the rugby team and who was like one of two notoriously straight people on the rugby team. And now the two that were like the main ones, like one is like married to a woman. The other one was this girl that I ended up dating. And everyone's just like, she's straight. Like, don't even bother. Like, no way, brother. And then I don't know how it happened, but that was who I ended up
Challenge
dating.
accepted.
It wasn't even like a challenge accepted. It was just like, oh, I like vibe with you and like we have a good time and like I think you're funny and you think I'm funny and we just like kind of good time.
So now you're coming out. She's not out. What was that like?
It ended up being fine in college because she literally was on the women's rugby team. And I think it was just like annoying. Her would just be like, fuck, I am queer. Like, God damn it. And then for me, I think it was departing the basketball team because the basketball team, weirdly, it was athletics, period, at my school were really straight. Like, in a way that it's clear now. And I'm like, oh, everyone was like being repressed, like by this entity of sports. Like with coaches and with the culture, it just was like not really a safe space to be a queer athlete, which is so insane. When you were being recruited for basketball, like you didn't want coaches to think you were gay because people got kicked off the team for being gay. Like there were teams where you just like were not allowed to be gay. Wow. And you didn't want to like present as too masculine because that would keep people from recruiting you.
Right.
And then at my school, like the coach, though she did not say it, like the vibes did not seem to be, I like gay people.
Right.
And that was sort of inferred by like other belief systems, which is of course insane because you're a women's basketball coach, like go do something else.
Right.
And it's also a situation where like you're not trying to stand out. You're not trying to give the coach a reason not to play you. Mm-hmm. And I think I already had so many reasons for her not to like me that I was like not trying to add another one.
Right.
And it really was like so many of the like misfits of the team. Like I think it was because we were queer.
You know, this is interesting because we just had Kate Fagan on, who was an ESPN journalist, and we were talking about exactly this. Mm-hmm. She also played basketball, and she said that gender performance became a really just like big part of her life because she wanted to express her gender in a certain way, but she really just couldn't because of this environment with basketball, which made it really hard for her to figure out what that looked like for her, or what she actually wanted versus, you know, what she had to be.
Right.
And so I'm curious what that journey was like for you.
Yeah, it's really wild. It was just like okay for that to be a thing that was discriminated against. It was just like sort of an open secret. So I think it informed, I mean, even from when I was younger, I remember the first time I went to public school, which was in 5th grade, because I went to like an all-black private school until I was in 5th grade. And then I got to pick out 3 outfits, I remember, when I was going to this new school. And I was like, well, I want to wear like the boys' clothes. And so my mom actually was fine with it. And she like took me to the boys section. I got like the long, you know, these are having a renaissance now, but like the long jean shorts.
Yeah.
And just like Nike and like And One t-shirts. And that was like sort of what I wore. I always wanted to be wearing clothes like that. But like as I got older, I started to, you know, notice the pushback or the discomfort that people had with it. And that's sort of what made me rein it in more. And then I think in college, like people start to have more tools to enforce the performance of like femininity. Cause I remember there were girls on the team who like wore makeup. Whereas I sort of became sort of like neutral about it. I was just like, I just am working towards being myself at this point. I think there was still that thing in them where they really were straight and they really did feel like, and I have to prove that. And now I have this tool of like makeup and dresses and all these sort of things, all these accoutrements to like really show that I am straight. And so being around that, I think just not leaning into that, even though in your mind you're like, I'm not gay, I'm hiding this pretty well. Like any refusal to do that in itself gives you away. So even though I wasn't like wearing men's clothing yet, I was presenting just like, and I just like wore like honestly sweats a lot of the time because I was like also using basketball to hide of like, well, I'm just an athlete. I just love basketball. That's why I've got this hoodie on. And not participating in that actually is like the same thing as just like sort of going full bore. And it really wasn't until I was in LA for I think a couple of years really before I really started to move towards what truly felt comfortable to me.
Tell me about what that looked like. Like when you show up in LA, which how far after college was that?
I was in the Bay Area I was in Minneapolis for a summer, and then I was in the Bay for a year, and then I came here in October 2011.
You're out. Mm-hmm. We're finding our comfortability with queerness, and now what starts to happen as you come into LA with your queerness and your gender performance?
So I'm fully comfortable with being queer. At that time, I'm writing for Autostraddle, this website.
Oh my gosh.
And so I'm a public queer figure. And then I'm like trying to date, trying to like see what's up. At the time, I don't know where this term really came from, but it was like gray is the term that I think it was like a very hyper local term, honestly, where it's just like you're in the middle.
Okay.
So it wasn't like, now everyone's like, and soft butch and I'm trans masc. It was like none of that was like as popular as it is now. And there was just sort of this blanket term of just like, you're just gray area. It's like you're not fully one thing, you're not fully femme, you're not fully butch, like, or stud or masc or any of that. You just like, I don't know.
Right.
And being in that sort of like, I don't know space, like, doesn't work. Like, it wasn't working. I mean, I was doing fine. But it was like very clearly like, oh, some of the people that I'm attracted to, they're not into like this like in between. They like want someone who's like further on this side of it. Which ended up being fine because I think like I started wearing binders and I got top surgery, and that is where I wanted to be was not really in the middle, but it still was like an interesting time to be like, oh, I'm figuring this out. And while I'm figuring this out, is it just that I don't have the confidence of someone who like is like, I like how I present and I'm picking my clothes and this is good, and that in itself projects confidence? Or is it just that this sort of like not picking a lane isn't as attractive? And there's no way to know.
Interesting. It is, because you don't know until, another thing that I was talking about to Kate about, you don't know until you get the feedback. Mm-hmm. So, but then it's hard to parse apart, is it the feedback that I'm getting or is this how I really feel?
Yeah.
How do you think you do that or did that?
This is only in hindsight. I think at the time I just was like, oh, what's going on? Like, how do I attract the people that I want to attract? I was like, had all these questions, but I really didn't have answers. And I think I just abandoned those questions and only wanted to answer the question of just like, well, what makes me feel good?
Yeah.
And as soon as I like put that to the forefront, those things, I sort of didn't care about them anymore.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, that's probably the right answer of what to do, is not to care so much about the feedback. Mm-hmm. So then what led you to, how did you figure out that you wanted to go further that way and go into the top surgery? And what did that journey look like?
I mean, having a little bit of money to like actually think about how I wanted to present. Mm. And it's like, I mean, truly any amount of money. I was so broke when I moved here. Mm-hmm. So many of my clothes were just like, what's cheap or what's free? And I still try to have the same clothes for a long time, but now it's for ethical reasons and not like monetary reasons.
Sure.
But once I was like, I now have money to choose some of what I wear, but I also have to think about that I will be wearing this for a lot. This will be like sort of my uniform because I'm not going to have that much stuff.
Right.
I was like, oh, I think I want to dress this way. And I wanted to, wear men's clothes. I want to wear button-ups, bow ties for whatever fucking reason. We're having a moment at the time. They should never have a moment. We should never return to bow ties. But for some reason, bow ties were like cool. And I was like, I want to wear a bow tie, but like it looks crazy to have bow tie. And then I had huge boobs. My boobs would just be out here, just like that's not visually
what you're wanting.
That sort of shape. It to me anyway. Then in how I want to see myself, it's fine. Other people, you can like sure. For me, I didn't like that contrast of like this masculine piece and then immediately under the most like feminine sort of like physical manifestation of womanhood, quote unquote. Then just the more I got to like really stop and think about it, I started to like pay attention to fashion a little bit more. And I just was like, oh, this is like what I want to wear. And part of that is like, well, these things are really getting in the way of that.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, what if I just didn't have those? And again, I got on WGA health insurance, and then that was what was able to get me there that I could afford it.
Yeah.
And that was when I was like 30, I think.
I have a self-inflicted similar story. I had implants. When I lived in Texas, I got really big implants when I was still closeted. And, you know, then when I came out, it was just so, even though like I'm femme presenting, it was way too feminine. I didn't like how that made me feel and what that made me present as. And it's been a really interesting journey because I originally got my implants just like downsized and then I got them completely taken out. And it's just such a swing in both directions.
Yeah.
And so clothes have been like really top of mind for me lately, and just like finding what that balance is and finding how, like, some days I wake up and I want to be really feminine, and then some days I wake up and I don't want to be feminine at all. And like learning to live in that and play in that has been a challenge for me that I'm really trying to like hone in on and focus on and be more comfortable in. But I think this like androgyny, and it's funny because Alexi and I were literally talking about this before you came. I think it holds a lot of people back, like from things or not. And I don't want to speak for anybody, but just, I know a lot of friends who like formal events or weddings or things like that give them a lot of anxiety to the point where they don't want to go because they don't know what the fuck to wear, you know? And it sounds like you kind of lived in that space for a while or like had to navigate through that. Do you still feel that like there isn't enough options for that look, or how have you learned to live in that?
I've really been on a skincare journey this year. I've been getting a lot of lasers and microdermabrasion and really trying to work on the texture of my skin. And my dermatologist let me in on a secret. She said, ditch cotton pillowcases. So I got Blissy's silk pillowcase. It's dermatologist tested and clinically proven to not clog your pores, unlike cotton. And I'm a side sleeper. So I used to wake up with these huge lines like all over my face. And this has helped so much. Plus, it's also really great for your hair. Cotton and synthetics are super harsh and they cause a lot of breakage, but silk minimizes damage and it protects color-treated hair, which mine is. And because you're a listener, Blissy is offering 60 nights risk-free plus an additional 30% off when you shop at blissy.com/madepod. That's BLISSY.com/madepod and use code MADEPOD to get an additional 30% off. Your skin and hair are going to thank you, I promise. Okay, y'all know what time it is. We have to talk about my underwear preferences again. We've been talking about the Skims Fits Everybody line, and last week I was raving about the thongs. But this week I tried the Fits Everybody full brief, and I've been absolutely living in them. I don't know why I've felt this need to be glued to thongs for basically my whole life, but now that I'm in my 30s, I'm in a very committed relationship, I figured I can start to venture out a little bit, and I seriously don't regret it. There's no lines through your clothes, and it seriously feels like I'm naked all day. So despite Matilda's disappointment, I am even sleeping in them. Shop Skims Fits Everybody collection and more at skims.com and Skims LA flagship on Sunset Boulevard. After you place your order, just be sure to let them know that we sent you. Select podcast in the survey and be sure to select our show in the drop-down menu that follows.
I think partially because I know I'll never be any sort of ideal. That's also been freeing of like, I'm never going to be like a skinny, white, soft, butch, trans mask person who is like still the ideal, I think, in our community. Like I'm not there. I have zero chance of being that. And so it has really allowed me, I think, to again, just stop posing those questions and just doing like what feels good. I just truly just like save shit that I think looks cool.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, all right, I'll take a piece of this and I'll rebuild this and I'll do this. And it's just all the time just paying attention to like what sparks, oh God, I'm not going to say that.
Say it.
What sparks joy?
Yes. It's so true though.
Or I'm just like, oh, that's a fun outfit.
Yeah.
Just doing that.
I really like that you're saying that, taking something that is so fucked that is still just like the norm and taking it and turning it into like, I let that free me and I'm just me and I do what the fuck I want to do, you know? And
have better style for it. Like even when you walk down, I'm like, this outfit is cool. And it's like,
Thanks.
I think that is how you develop personal style, is getting rid of those kind of ideals and those norms. But it is really hard. It's so just like in there, you know?
Yeah, especially when you know that if you do it, it's more likely that you'll have like access to people's sexual imaginations. Like,
oh, interesting.
People will be more attracted to you if you know, oh, if I do X, Y, and Z, this thing that's in right now. If I do a cropped fucking t-shirt and some long shorts and some white socks and some loafers,
yeah,
people are going to go, oh, that's cool. This person is cool. I like what they're doing. I'm interested.
Yeah.
Like a refusal to do that is sort of being like, and I'm cutting myself off from that sort of easy access point of like, I immediately can signal to people, hey, I'm with the guys. I'm one of the cool ones at. You like aren't taking the easy way out. You're being like, wow, I have to like actually like earn the attraction of people a little bit.
Wow, that's a really good point. And that's also kind of just inherently queer. Like there's something really queer about that.
That's not what the queers are doing.
Fair.
All dressed in the same.
But the mindset of the queer, like going against the grain or going against the norm or going against what's accepted.
Yeah, I guess that's what's
there's
like
a queerness in that.
Disappointing to me, I think, is that like now we are at this point where there are so many places that are like, and this is for any person, this is non-binary clothing. Like it's all these places who are trying to like cater to whether it's like true or not. Usually it's like more masculine than anything. It's just like this masculine leaning clothing has a bit of a female cut. Like it's not really catering to that entire community, but there's still more options and I think more open-mindedness to fashion now. And instead of using that to like really explore and really build like unique looks, now everyone's just doing the same fucking thing.
Yeah. That's a good point. I was just listening to something recently that was talking about like the style of like Billie Eilish, like when she first was kind of wearing all these different shapes and whatever. And she was like rejecting that you have to be this, you know, heroin thin and wear these certain silhouettes. It was like, no, I can exist and I can wear, you know, shapes that don't really make sense.
Right.
And they're baggy and long and they don't necessarily fit my body in the way that you think that they should. And I think that's really, really cool. And that we should all kind of embrace that and mess with fashion in that way. Wow, this is not where I was expecting this conversation to go, but I love it. It's so cool. What else do you have to tell me?
Well, when you were talking about like the surgery, your surgeries, it made me think also like that was also part of, I think, performing heterosexuality for me is like, it was sort of my like last ditch effort of like, oh, someone might think I'm gay. Hey guys, don't forget I got these.
Yeah.
Like it was sort of like, can I be gay with boobs this big? I don't know. Like truly it like helped. It was like, hey, but these things, guys like them.
Yeah.
What do we think?
I wonder if that's why once I did realize what my sexuality was and like what was going on, why I felt like they were just so, like I was like, I was so upset about them every single day. I was like, this just does not make sense anymore.
Yeah.
And I think maybe subconsciously I was feeling that. Like the original like intent of these things were to perform some, like almost to cover up, I guess. Like, because I've known I was queer like pretty much my whole life. I've had this like inkling, you know? And so I wonder if it was this like overcompensation to perform this femininity. And then it was like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to attract you anymore. Like, get the fuck away from me.
Right.
You know? And then it's funny because like, then when you kind of move more into the queer culture, a lot of women did not like that. Like that hyper, you know, or that I had these big implants. And I think maybe it was because they were sensing something within me that didn't feel actualized or something. I don't know. Or maybe it's because I felt so uncomfortable in my own skin with them. I'm not sure, but
yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely read just because of how it's like portrayed in the media as something that is meant to attract men. And I think that probably for queer women, they might be like, oh, wait, that is like a holdover from what you were doing before. And of course, that's not even, where we want to be, because
Sure.
people's bodies are people's bodies. Like,
Right.
there are plenty of queer women who have implants and want implants.
Yes.
And like, that's a whole thing that exists. But I think it's just like this entire arc that I think people like around my age, I would say like millennials, really, like, I feel like we've been on a journey that like other generations have not been on, where it's like you start with those sorts of ideas and you actually do get to see yourself like change. Like, you change your mind. The people around you change, hopefully. The people around you change their mind, and you start to reflect back and like, oh, these are the things that were informing all of this weird shit we were doing. And what could it be like if we freed ourselves from that? And I think that that's why it's like we have this imagination of like, we've had to imagine a different world because things that were so mean and wrong and messed up were ingrained in us growing up, and we are shedding those. Like, I think that millennials have like really tried to shed those, at least queer millennials that I am around.
Yeah.
I've seen an active process of people shedding them and becoming like more worldly and more curious and more like accepting of all these different reasons for people to do them without attributing it to, oh, it's this thing.
How do you feel like some of that still creeps in?
I will say I think I was lucky enough in that like my family did not ingrain a lot. I think that they hold a lot of those beliefs, but like not in the outward way where it's like I'm saying out loud that this thing is bad. It's like more subtle. And because of its subtlety, those things didn't like latch on with me. Like, the things that I had to shed happened at the same time that I was exposed to them, if that makes sense. Like, it truly was just like, oh, I just didn't know this thing existed. Whereas I feel like a lot of the times where people have negative opinions and bad opinions and harmful opinions is because they were exposed to something that they didn't actually have the context for yet.
Right.
And the only context they had was this thing is bad. But if you aren't actually exposed to it, the first time that you see it or around it, you can truly be curious about, oh, wait, what? How do I think about this? What? Because I don't think that people's first inclination is to be like, oh, different is bad. This is ew. I don't like it. I think people's first inclination, if they truly are like presented something on a blank page, is to be curious about it.
Yeah.
And so I feel lucky in that, like, I don't think, I mean, sure, subtlety. There are always things that you are like identifying and like working on. But I never had any of the like big bads.
Yeah, that's great.
Which is not the case for a lot of people. And I feel it's just because like no one put that in me early.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's like what I hope to do with my kids. I think especially around just like the weight and, very 90s diet culture. I have a lot of that keeps me from truly expressing the way I want to.
Yeah.
Because I'm worried about body more than I'm worried about expression, I think, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
And so I think I'm still very much in this phase of like trying to let that go and trying to just be like healthy and happy with what I'm given, but that's hard. That's a hard thing to do. And then you mix gender and you mix clothes and you mix, all of it in there. And it's just like,
Yeah. And I think also because it's like the external forces like haven't actually changed that much. It's really, I think, that we as individuals and like as communities and people have learned how to like battle those forces and put more of the pressure out. But like all of those diet culture, all of that shit, it's still constant. It's still everywhere. It's maybe not as like obvious or said out loud as much, but like if you look at people on TV now versus like if you look at people even on TV in like 2010, people look completely different. Like if you look at like How I Met Your Mother, that came on like Netflix earlier today. We were just like flipping through. I was like, oh wait, this show exists. And you look at like Ted Mosby, like he's just some doofy fucking guy. Like that dude would not be in like White Lotus. You know what I mean? Like every dude in White Lotus is like doof. Like that's just like what men have to look like now. It's like women already smaller than men, getting even smaller on TV.
Right.
It's really just like, oh, now we just like show it to you and we don't have to tell you. Like, you get it. You get that this is how you're supposed to look.
Interesting. well, yeah, I guess this is another interesting conversation because this is the industry that you're in.
Yes.
And I'm curious, like, what progress or lack of progress you've seen since you got into it. What do you try to do in your work that changes things?
Progress. I mean, now I think it's just like, a lot of times it feels like progress for the sake of progress, which I'm not upset at all. Like, I think that it's just somewhat, because that's, I think, what it's going to take for it to like actually stick, right? It just takes people being like, and this character should be in a wheelchair, and there's no reason for it, but I've decided that this character should be in a wheelchair. They just work at the grocery store, and that's their life. Right. Like, it takes people, and I think those decisions get questioned all the time. People are just like, why? Why would you do that? What are you talking about? And it's, I think, just a lot of individual activism, and I hate to even call it activism, but like, that's what it is, because if it just was like no one looking for those pressure points, no one looking for those opportunities, the default would be what the default has always been.
Right.
So I think that I see more people taking that risk now and sticking their neck out to like say something that should not at all be a point of contention.
Right.
But more people, I think, are willing to do that and to ask for those things and to push for those things now.
As kind of at the top of it all, like on Abbot Elementary, do you feel like it's on your shoulders to make sure that happens? And how do you pick people that you kind of know will be that way?
It's definitely not on my shoulders because it's not my show, it's Quinta's show. Right. And like, ultimately, good or bad, she's the one who's going to get credit for it. Yeah. Like, I could sit here and tell you, and I push for X, Y, and Z, and it's just like, brava, Quinta. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, and that's a double-edged sword, because all the progress things, like, she gets credit for, and all the, I mean, not that anyone even really has anything bad to say, but if people had things bad to say, that's going to blow back on her. But I mean, her being at the top, like, she is who has the ultimate say. So anything that is progressive, that is like a swing that other shows aren't taking, that does ultimately, the credit does go to her. Because she didn't shut it down.
Yeah.
When so many people do.
Yeah.
And so many people just go, no, I'm not interested. Or, no, that's weird. And for me, yeah, there are times where, in my Halloween episode, there's a character who's in a wheelchair, and I just wrote that into the character description, and that's just like what we did.
Yeah.
And it wasn't for any particular reason. Mm-hmm. But I think sometimes you write to people that you know, and if you have a diverse friend group and you're like, wow, this person is really funny, I really want them to be in this thing, I'm going to try to cheat a little bit. I'm going to write the description to just describe this person.
Right.
That's, another way to do it. And then you throw them in with the batch of people that are auditioning, and you like see what happens.
Wow, that's a really interesting nugget. Like, your writing or your art reflects what your world is. Yeah, you see that in your real life, so you're going to write that in.
Yeah.
But someone who doesn't, prioritize that in their real life won't.
Right. It's the girls' argument. Everything goes back to girls, if you think about it.
Wait, what do you mean?
Well, just like everyone was always so mad at that show of being like, and it's just white people, and there aren't just white people in New York, and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, yeah, but this person is only around white people.
Interesting.
And that is a thing. Like, people in LA, like, LA is what percentage Latino? And there are some people who have 0 Latino friends in their friend group.
Interesting.
So if they write their friend group and that's not there, it's not because they're wrong. Like, that is what their friend group looks. That's what they have around them.
That's interesting.
And you're asking people to lie. You're asking people to lie and try to represent something that they don't know anything about, which I would rather people didn't do. I'd rather you just give more people opportunities to tell stories that are reflective of other groups.
Interesting. That was going to be my question. Like, would you encourage someone to just like write a part in just for the sake of writing it? But it sounds like no, just these people who are making or who are greenlighting the shows need to.
Not the main characters.
Right.
I mean, not like, big components of the show. I think that where you can find space for those things are these day player roles, are these, co-star roles, which again, if you like go back and you like look at the numbers, those things still tend to go to the default of just like white guys. Even like background extras, when you look at those numbers, the default is always white guys, because if you want something else, you have to specifically say that.
Yeah.
And a part of it has to be like not treating that as the default of saying like, hey, this character is a white guy and that is not what you would assume. That's only because I said so. Like, even when people are reading scripts and you just like, and they go, oh, this character is like this. And you're like, why would you assume that? That character could be, this person is a mail clerk. They could be anything.
Yeah.
But for some reason, that's what you are assuming.
Interesting.
And so it's just sort of finding those points and opportunities to be like, fill this out with other things. Like, make this world feel different than like who's at the center of the story.
Yeah.
And ultimately, like, that is what helps people stick around too. Because like, this is an industry where a job like that could be the difference in you being able to stay in LA and you having to leave. Like, those residuals could pay your rent next month. Like,
Right.
those are the sorts of, I think, pressure points that are important to sort of changing the entire industry, is like thinking about things at that minute of a level.
Right. How do you think that applies with queer characters and putting queer voices in stories?
Whew. I mean, it's hard to get people to, I think, see queer people as the clerks at the grocery store, or the teachers or anyone. I think that also, like, so many guest star roles and co-star roles are centered around like romantic interests. Like, such a large percentage of those things are like, oh, and you're going to be like the person someone's dating for this episode, blah, blah, blah. And so, of course, if you have all these straight people, then like all of those roles are going to be for people that at least can appear as straight. And when you don't, again, if you don't specifically write in queer or gender nonconforming or any of those things, a lot of people just don't put those people in the batch. They don't include them in like the call for this role. It's still going to be like a traditional looking person just because that is what people default to. So unless you're being like, and my gay ass therapist, like, which not even that one. There are too many lesbian therapists on TV. Stop. Two therapists and cops always lesbian. Stop it.
That's so true. The cop is always a lesbian.
It's always it's so annoying. So anything else? Actually, that's a bad example. My queer photographer. This photographer that's taking a picture for 2 seconds should be queer. No one's really saying that, because why?
Yeah.
Why would you like put that specificity in there? But unfortunately, like, that's sort of what people have to do because they just don't think about it. And they don't think that it's important to people. And so, like, a lot of what I try to talk about, honestly, is just like, no, this is really important. Like, this is incredibly important to people, that they see themselves, even if it's not in the main roles of the show, just in the world, just existing. Because that's what queer people are trying to do, is like exist and mind their business and not have people fuck with them.
Yeah.
And like including that in art is important. And it doesn't always have to be like some stereotypical thing. It doesn't have to be that it's romantic. It can truly just be the candle maker at ASOS or whatever.
That sounds really queer. That sounds like
it's a queer person, right? Yeah. Why are there any straight baristas on television?
Yeah, it's such a good point. And also, I'm just thinking, like, a lot of the queer representation that you see on TV is like so stereotypically queer, which makes it hard for just like, I think like the femmes to just be like, yeah, you can be femme and be gay, you know? So it's like a whole other kind of battle.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like you just need all types of representation everywhere. Because even now, like some of the queer characters that you see written into the show or the shows, I'm still like, well, that's not me.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't, you know, I don't vibe with that. So that wouldn't have helped me, you know, when I was younger. So it's just interesting. Like you truly just have to show that like people are just people and they can be gay.
I had like a weird bump in acting side of things where it's sort of like everyone discovered non-binary people at the same time. Like every showrunner was like, I've heard about these they thems. Every lesbian was like on shows. It was like, and surprise, you thought this was a straight person. They're actually gay. What up? And so I obviously could do that because I think I look pretty gay. And so it sort of jumped over from that of like surprise lesbian to now it's like non-binary people.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I'm genderqueer, but I don't use they, them. And so then it's just like, I guess I don't qualify now. And just like, mass presenting lesbians are still just like, wait a minute, what? Wait a second, don't forget about us. Like, why? We love that for them. Don't forget that there's lots of different presenting people that all should be on TV. You shouldn't just be like, and now I must have the coolest thing.
Yeah.
But that's, I think, what is, a lot of it is reactionary. A lot of it is just like, again, I just got exposed to this. I want to be a good progressive person. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to write this like non-binary character. Again, instead of just like filling out the entire world with all sorts of people, letting all sorts of people be in these like cattle calls for casting.
Yeah.
It just like, sorry, it's annoying and it's hard. Like thinking about it all the time and really trying to be inclusive takes more effort.
Yeah.
And I think when you're making TV, it's so stressful. Everything is so fast paced that you don't want to do it because you just want to get it over with and you want to get the job done. But like, slow down. And that's my, honestly, this entire industry, like the stakes are so low. The stakes are so low. It's a television show.
True.
Take a beat and do a better job to make your audience feel better represented.
Yeah. Wow, that's a really good point. It sounds like you have a lot of work to do on your in the industry, you know?
Yeah. I single-handedly will fix entertainment.
Thank you for sharing. I have one more question for you.
Please.
It's kind of invasive.
Uh-oh.
What are you working on in therapy or self-development wise?
Self-development wise, I probably have been saying this for a while and I will continue to say it, but patience. I think when I get closer to people and more intimate, I think that you start to expect for people to know you better. And you're like, oh, you should have known that. You knew that was going to annoy me. Or you knew I wanted this. You knew I wanted that. And you sort of lose that level of protection that you have with people that you're just interacting with and don't have the same expectations for. And so I'm trying to remember that, like, no one in the world will ever know me besides me. Like, that's just not a fair expectation. Like, you have to maintain grace and patience for everyone, no matter how long you know them.
Yeah, that's tough. What does it look like in the moment?
It looks like just not answering the question. Just being like, don't you know the answer to that? Like, sort of like a look of like, come on, dude. Instead of just like answering the question. Just like, I don't want to roll my eyes at anybody. I do, but only in a funny way.
Yeah.
Only if I'm purposely being dramatic.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I think like, especially in relationships, it's a lot of just like constant communication.
Yes.
Constant resetting of like boundaries, expectations, you know, and that's a lot. That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And it does take a lot of patience. So
Absolutely. When
I
you
could probably
communicate
work on
with
it too.
someone so much, you just like expect like that shorthands will develop.
Totally.
Yeah.
And even when they do, it's hard to rely on those because then you'll be fucking wrong again.
Yeah.
A new shorthand is developing, you know?
It's wrong.
Yeah.
It's the wrong hand.
Yes. So I could probably work on that too. So thanks for the reminder. Okay, so we play a game.
Okay.
It's called You Haul or You Ghost. Okay, they're perfect in every way except for this one little quirk.
Okay.
They're obsessively reading Dumois and are like up on all of the celebrity gossip.
No. I
No.
think that's a deal breaker.
I agree. This
Yeah.
is a ghost.
I think this is a ghost.
Why does it bother you?
Not that I would ever ghost. I would never ghost anyone. But for the purpose of the game,
Yes,
it's a
yes,
ghost.
yes.
Why does it bother me? In LA, you're just too close to it. And you would feel like you actually know what's going on. Like you'd see that person at the farmer's market and you'd be like, and I know you're a T. And I'm judging you and I am looking for an interaction to either confirm or deny what I've read. And I don't like that. I like sort of normal gossip more than like I would much rather hear about like what's going on with like Bethany from work.
That's so true because also this kind of goes to like, you think about the Housewives. When we first started watching the Housewives, it was super, I don't know if you're a Housewives on it. Okay. Well,
But I'm on the ride.
Okay, yeah. Go with me. When you first started watching Housewives, it was super voyeuristic. Like these people they weren't characters. They didn't know how to act. They just were being themselves. But now you're like watching the Housewives and you know, like these women know what they're supposed to do for the camera.
Right.
So normal gossip, Bethany from work, she is not changing who she is for anybody.
She's not producing herself.
Exactly. You are hearing exactly who Bethany is.
Yes.
So actually, I think you're right on that. Also, I've never been one of those people who like read the celebrity magazines or anything like that. I just, for some reason, it doesn't, like all this stuff going on with Justin, Selena, like none of that interests me for some reason.
Because they're not real people. Unfortunately, like they don't live in the real world. They don't react to situations normally. No fault of their own. You get rich like that, it breaks your brain. You get brain worms.
Yeah, that's so true. Okay, I'm glad we talked that through. What about if they need to play ocean noises to sleep?
That's fine.
What if it's like, you're like hearing dolphins and whales?
That's
and
very specific. I don't think that's in the normal pack.
That's the bonus pack.
Yeah, you have to subscribe to something to get a dolphin noise in your ocean noises. The dolphin might cause a ghost. If it's like, no, I need to hear dolphin noises, yeah, I might ghost.
How many like nights? I'm thinking like, is she turning on dolphin noises just like night one and we're getting this out of the way? Or it's like, you're like months in and then all of a sudden they're like, ugh. So this is actually how I need to sleep.
All of a sudden,
What if
all of a sudden we're having, I'm challenging this thing. Because then you're being like, I'm like, oh, have you just not been sleeping for like months? Like, I know you're asleep, so you can sleep without it.
Okay, that's fair.
So I'm going to need you to stop.
I actually think I wouldn't care about this one just because I can sleep through anything.
I can too, but I don't want to.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't want to have to. I'm a good sleeper, but and what if then I get addicted to dolphin noises and then we break up and now I'm dating someone and I'm like,
now you're the weirdo?
Now I'm the weirdo.
That's so
I need a sea lion, I need a whale, and I need a dolphin.
That is so
before
true.
I can hit rim.
Be careful. It's like you are the 5 people you hang around. Be careful. Can you please tell people where to find you?
Yeah, I'm at BS Hilarious. Technically, I'm on X, but I'm never really on there except to self-promote and promote this podcast. And on Instagram. That's really where I'm at.
Perfect.
But you can't talk to me. But you can follow me.
Don't DM. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. That's a wrap.
Thank y'all for listening to today's episode. As always, help us spread the gay agenda by writing an Apple review, rating us on Spotify, and sharing with everyone you've ever met. And if you haven't yet, join our subscription community, Made It In, for exclusive Made It Out media shows, content, and chat rooms at madeitout.supercast.com. Made It Out is produced by Matilde Jordan and worked on solely by lesbians.
Candlelight chaos, laughter tangled in soft sheets, love's slip and slide. And you were with me with the romance until the last line. Yeah. And you were like, no, that sounds pretty freaky.
That's where I got a little creative.
Yeah.
Slip and slide. How do you rate it?
What's the scale?
1 out of 10.
1 out of 10. On just enjoyment?
Yeah.
7.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not bad. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Okay, y'all know what time it is. We're going to talk about my underwear preferences again. We've been talking about the Skims Fits Everybody line, and last week I was raving about the thongs, but this week I decided I'm 30. I'm in my 30s. I'm in a committed relationship. I don't really need to be glued to thongs all the time. So I tried the Fits Everybody full brief, and I have been living in them. There's no lines through your clothes, and it seriously fits like I'm naked. And despite Matilde's disappointment, I am even sleeping in them. Shop Skims Fits Everybody collection and more at skims.com and Skims LA flagship on Sunset Boulevard. After you place your order, just be sure to let them know that I sent you. Select podcast in the survey and be sure to select our show in the drop-down menu that follows.